All right, welcome everyone. A little late night streaming here. It's about 10 o'clock and I've got a little bit of work I want to do. All right, welcome everyone. So I'm going to do that now. Let's see here. Okay, so a couple of things I want to do. One is I want to work on the AVD demo repo. So I've got an AVD section and I've got a topology section. The thing on the topology section I want to do is work on the configurations for R1, host 1, and host 2. Let's get them a configuration. So there's a couple different things I can do to get that configuration going. I could include it into the repo. Little late night. Okay, so a couple of. Yeah, so I can include the configuration in the actual when everything is spun up. So in the topology here, I can say I want these startup config files to be used, and so that would work there. Or I could have it. I could put a playbook in there that just paste the config on there. That would work too. Drinking some wine here. I have a beaker, so I use beakers to drink my beverages. So I think I'll go with the preloaded config. So it's going to load up some configs here. And one thing I want to include on these host configs is so port channel 1. I want to do MAC address router. I want to give them MAC addresses for so that when we do any kind of like show command, we can actually look for a specific MAC address rather than like some rando MAC address that they have. So giving them specific deterministic MAC addresses, or not deterministic, static MAC addresses. So that when they ping, I go into a leaf. Show BGP, EVPN, route type MAC IP. That is not the right MAC addresses. So that did not work. Because I've done it with the physical interfaces and it seemed to work there. So that's the MAC address. It's set. But I'm on host 1. And that's the MAC address it saw. It's not that one. Let's see if we can find that MAC address. Where did it derive that from? 9B, 9B, 9 Bravo, 9 Bravo. It's not bedtime. It's not for the physical interfaces. So that's the default gateway. Let's see what we get when I go to host 1. Sorry, leaf 1. I'm going to leaf 3. So it pulled a different MAC address there. So maybe the code doesn't allow, because I've done it before on just a physical interface. Oh, it also might be because I'm using 2.8. You know what? Probably it's because it's 2.8. So I'm gonna get out of here. Oh wait, yeah, I want to do this. Show run interface port channel 1. And then my configs. You know, you don't have to do this, of course, but I find it helps if I have some MAC addresses that are familiar that I can look for. The router one, I don't need that. Okay, so sudo container lab destroy. So this will remove everything. Then sudo docker image list. We'll do this one. So one of the things about containerized EOS. Now, I'm going to preface this by saying containerized EOS is by far the best virtualized platform for any of the network vendors. It is the lightest weight, it is the most full featured, and it's being actively developed. I'm very impressed with it in terms of what it can do. But it does have, there are a couple of like quirks that I wish they would fix. One of them is I don't know what features get added. So there's no place to look at and say, oh, here's what we added, the new functionality in containerized EOS. They're adding stuff all the time, which is fantastic, but it's hard to know what works and what doesn't. I remember when I was working with Arista, I don't work with Arista anymore, but when I was working with Arista, I had this idea, like, let's give it a static MAC address so that way we can easily find things when we're doing these show commands instead of trying to remember some rando MAC address. And it didn't work initially, and then it did, but I don't know what version it was that it did that. So let's go ahead and deploy with a new version, 4.34, which is, as far as I can tell, on July 2nd, pretty close to July 3rd. Is the latest version of containerized EOS. Okay. And then figure out like what things are wrong and maybe do some bug reports. Like NTP does not work in CEOS. Again, I'm making little nitpick complaints here. Cisco doesn't really have any containerized solutions, so you got to use virtual solutions. And then Juniper is probably the craziest. I don't think they really have a good containerized solution. They have CRPD, but it's either has to be licensed or you can do an eval version, which kind of sucks and it's limited. And their vJunos switch is just a CPU hog. And it's weird because it's like Junos has this weird, the newer versions are really showing the limitations of FreeBSD in that like they boot up into a Linux kernel and then use KVM virtualization to launch a virtualized instance of Junos based on FreeBSD. So Junos involved. Apparently that one's okay. I've been playing around with it. It's a lot better than vJunos switch. So let's see if this works. So I got a leaf 1. The configs are still there. And it's running the new version. See if host 1 did not retain everything. I didn't do a write mem. Show IP route. Okay, so that looks good. So I should be able to ping my, actually, no, let me do this. Conf in port channel 1, MAC address, MAC router is 0200. Write mem, okay. And then ping 10.1, 101. So I pinged my gateway. That worked just fine. And then weird. BTOP seemed to have screwed it up. Leaf 1, show BGP, EVPN route type MAC IP. No, it's still oh, there it is. There's the current. Yeah, so that looks good. So I'll go to host 2. I get that one right. Oh yeah, host 2. I got a ping. All right, so I've got both MAC addresses in there. So that's good. These will get timed out after a while. These are the old ones. So this is the host 1, or host 2 rather. And I don't know what version that they started to let it work on. But by 4.3.4 it works, so. I could. Let's see. I got some time. Sudo docker image list. Let's see what versions I have on here. Try an earlier version. 4.27. It's a little bit too old. Let's try something a little bit more recent, but not super recent. Let's try 4.30. Yeah, try that one. It's downloading this now. Okay, done. And I'll use FileZilla. And I'll push it on there. Oh, maybe it didn't copy. Let's overwrite it. Looks like it was there. Okay, I'll just double check, make sure. So Docker image import CEOS lab 30 CEOS and then 43010M. We'll just change this to so I just want to see if it still works on older versions. I'll grab this one too. Just for shits and giggles. Destroy. and then deploy. I normally been drinking tea on these because I did a dry June, but now I'm drinking wine. I try not to have anything to drink when I'm trying to troubleshoot, because like even a glass of wine just makes my patience go completely out the window, and I'm trying to troubleshoot something. So if I can just do development where I'm developing content and I'm just trying to organize thoughts into a coherent manner so I can put it onto a PowerPoint slide or a lab or something like that, that's fine. That I can do that with a glass of wine or two in me. But if I'm like frustrated and I've had a glass of wine, then I'm like, fuck this. I don't want to deal with this anymore. So far, nothing is causing me to troubleshoot. Another thing I want to do is, one problem I've had with the AutoBox is getting a self-signed certificate that works with a browser. And I finally figured out what I was doing wrong. And what I was doing wrong is that when I make a self-signed certificate, I need to use a SAN, which is a secondary. Basically, it's an additional field in the certificate, in the X509 certificate, that includes an IP address, because I want to do a certificate for an IP address, and you can do it. It just takes a little bit of extra finesse. The other thing is that you have to quit out of your browser and start it up again after you add the self-signed certificate into your operating system's certificate repository. So I got that working, and I need to change the instructions for the AutoBox so that it does that. Because there's a couple of things that don't work if you don't have this. If this is a untrusted, see how it says not secure there? It's a self-signed cert. I'm not going to pay you like $70 to register an IP address, and I don't think you can anyway. But there's a couple things you can't do. For example, if I go to my reports and I go to Fabric State and I go to Open Preview, it says error loading web view, cannot register as service worker, and that's because of the self-signed certificate is not being trusted. And I can't just go to certificate details and export it normally because it's localhost. It doesn't have the IP address in here. So I've got to make a new self-signed certificate that has the IP address and the new CIN field or SAN field, and then load it into my operating system's certificate repo. And it works. It's just kind of a bunch of steps. So that's something I want to do. All right. So we're going to host one. And I'll do show run interface port channel 1, and I've got the MAC address in there. Wait, I should cause a ping. Ping works, and then I'll go to leaf 1, MAC address table, VLAN 100. Okay, so this older version, it did not take the MAC address. So this is 4.3. It's 4.30, so that's good to know. Again, it's just really nice because when I do a show MAC address table, it's just picking up some rando MAC address. I don't even know how it derives this, but to be able to set it to something so that when I'm doing all the show commands and trying to find things, it's in there. So let's go ahead and destroy. And what else do I have? Sudo docker, make sure it actually did destroy. Yep, it did. Sudo docker image list. Got 430 and 434. I don't know. Let's do 432. It's Wednesday night, 11:30. Get my diet cherry Pepsi. That was a reference to the movie Pump Up the Volume. Okay, looks like that is done 432. So I will upload it. Refresh. 432. So Docker image import. Nope, don't want to do that. I want to do COS. 61M. I want to give it a name so that it shows up in the image repository as a name instead of like just a hash. I think it's a SHA-1 hash. Which for cryptographic purposes has been deprecated since like 2012. But if you just need it for identification, it's fine. That's what Git uses is SHA-1, I believe. Oh, no, uses SHA-256. Okay. So I will change that over to this image. 43261M. Sudo container lab deploy. It's good that it's bouncing around these versions, and it's pretty good. Again, like containerized EOS is is the best containerized network operating system. Nokia's SROS or SR Linux. I don't even know what the difference between the two of them are. They're well regarded. I don't think they're as well featured though. I could be wrong. I don't know a ton about them, but like this is nice because it's close enough to NXOS and iOS. Although the EVPN stuff is very different in terms of configuration. But it's great for Container Lab. Almost done here. Okay, so all done. Again, it spun up 9 different images. So 2 leaves, 4 spines, 2 hosts, 1 router in like less than a minute. So it's fantastic. So let's go to leaf 1. Okay, nothing's in there, which is expected. So let me ping 10.100. Let's do 212. Okay, that worked. Oh, that's interesting. 4.32 doesn't honor that command. I thought it would have. Make sure I'd set it. Oh, no, it didn't save it. Okay, well, that's... Well, shoot. Yeah, I didn't... Oh, that's one. Gosh darn it. PL1, MAC address, router. 0200000001. I do. So the first octet is 02. And if you're not familiar with what the significance of that is, every OUI that starts with 00 is a burnt-in MAC address. Every MAC address that starts with 02 is a locally administered MAC address. So it means it's not going to be burnt into anything. So that you can assign whatever you want, and you're not going to collide with something else. So the first octet of an OUI. Let's see if I can find a reference to this. It's in Wikipedia, I think. Yeah, so the first 3 octets. So 48. I think this is the one we use. EUI 48. Where is MAC address? Yeah, unicast. Yeah, so universally administered. So 00, 04, 08, and 0 Charlie are unicast, universally administered. I forgot that it was not just 00. Oh yeah, sorry. So the second digit is 0. So if the second digit is 0, 4, 8, or Charlie, that it is universally administered, and that means it will be burnt into a MAC. It's capable of being burnt into a MAC address. If it's if it's 26A alpha or echo, that means it could be it'll be locally administered, which means it's not going to be burnt into anything. So ping 10.1, 100 or 212. Leave 1. Show MAC address table VLAN 100. All right, so that works there for 4-3-0 or 4-3-2. Yeah, 4-3-2. So let's destroy. I don't know why I'm spending so much time on this. I'm just curious. Let's go back to 4.28. Let's see if this will. So next month, if you're curious, I'm doing a skydiving event in Chicago, or not in Chicago. It's about an hour and a half outside of Chicago, with 250 other skydivers. So we're doing a big, gigantic skydive, 250 people, which will be, that's going to be 13 airplanes, 12 airplanes, flying in formation, dropping out skydivers at 18,000 feet. So again, what I'm testing is how far back in code can I go to and set the MAC address on a port channel so that when we do show commands, trying to diagnose, troubleshoot, how far back can I go, and it will take that MAC address. Because I think going back a certain time, it doesn't take it, like the command doesn't do anything for the containerized EOS. Again, if you're just joining us, containerized EOS is a network operating system that Arista makes specifically for labbing, and it's available free. The only weird thing is you can't register on the website with a Gmail or Hotmail account or some of the others. So that's your only impediment. But you don't have to have a service contract or anything like that. And it's great for labbing. It's full featured. It's the best out there. It's the lightest weight, fullest featured one. Better than what Juniper and Cisco have by a lot. So we'll go to host 1. And the command is there. So if I'll ping host 2. It goes through the fabric. So I'm going to leaf 1, and I do show BGP, EVPN, route type MAC IP. So we're checking for the type 2 routes. And here they did not take. Okay, so I tried to manually hard set the MAC addresses. It did not take. If I do show MAC address table, VLAN 100. This is the MAC address for host 1. It's some rando MAC address that determined, the virtualization layer determined. So that didn't work. So let's go ahead and destroy. So that was 4.28. And 4.30 worked. So let's try 4.29. I don't know why I'm doing this, but why the heck not? I think I want to do it for my EVPN book that I'm finishing up, because the labs are based on this environment, on Container Lab. And being able to set this MAC address for learning purposes is good. So I want to give them a, use this minimum version. CUS 2910.1M. Then I'll do this. 2910.1M. It's getting late here. I'll probably stream for another 30 minutes before I tap out. Okay. Container Lab deploy. Oh, I don't think I destroyed. Did I destroy? There we go. So now we're running 4.29. We'll see if the MAC addresses take. We'll be right back. We get some more wine. Still waiting for that to come up. It's pretty incredible. I remember when, if you wanted to do a lab, you had to like buy some really old equipment and put it in your laundry room. So that I can run a VM here. This VM has 16 gigs of RAM and 4 virtual CPUs, and I can run 9 nodes. So 2 spines, 4 leaves, 2 hosts, and 1 router. And it's fine. So very low resource utilization. So let's go to host 1. just verify that port channel 1 has that command. Oh, it didn't. Okay, interesting. Oh, I don't know why it forgot. So I did write mem. Yeah, same thing here. Check the type 2 routes. Did not take them. So 4.29 is a no-go. Four to 3.0 worked if I think. Let's try like an early version of 4.3.0. So 4.3.0.0f. Did I already download that one? Yeah, I did. Yeah, so we're going to run that one. I think 4.3.0 is the magic number. We'll see. Okay. It seems like a small detail, but I found it's a really big deal if I can change the MAC address so that when I'm doing show commands, show MAC address table for VLAN, show EVP and BGP route type for type 2 route, to have a specific MAC address that I know that's host 1, so that way I can track it around. And again, they've done a really good job of adding features incrementally to containerized EOS. Again, my only gripe is that there's not like a centralized place. Like, here's the things we added as we went along. But there's substantial differences between the versions and what features they support. All right, that's there, 10.1, 111. Unreachable, interesting. My default route wasn't changed or wasn't saved. I thought that was saved. Curious. Okay, that's there, but show IP route in my default route. Man, that's there. Weird. Okay. All right, ping that, and then go to leaf 1. Show MAC address table, VLAN 100, or not 1000, 100. Didn't take it. Interesting. I thought if 3.0 would work. Yeah, it didn't take. It's still using the derived MAC address. All right, so let's go ahead and destroy that. Oh, I didn't do a save. That's all right. Sudo docker image list. I have 43010M. If I remember it, that one did work. M is maintenance and F is feature, but I don't know if that corresponds to the containers. Usually that is for the physical version. For the regular version that would actually go on a physical switch. I'll have to ask someone at Arista. Okay, so let's go to host 1. Spending a lot of time on this, but again, it's a nice feature. Kind of interesting that it's not saving them. But the route was saved, interesting enough. Still didn't take it. So 43010M. Yeah, because it says that's my MAC address. But it doesn't show up here. So that was what I was seeing when I was working with Arista. When I was teaching Arista courses, their lab environment was running on, they only updated it like every year or so, every 2 years maybe, which is normal. It's a lab environment. I'm not expecting it to run the latest code. So that was 430. Let's double check that. All right, screw it. Let's do 431. I don't think I ever ran 431. 2F, because that was a feature. M is just maintenance. But again, I don't know if if they added a new feature, the containerized version, I don't know if they would make that as a call that an F because it's containerized. Getting sleepy. All right, that's downloaded, and then move it over. 431. It actually does help me to know when I write the documentation for the book. All right, destroy everything and then deploy. There we go. Still waiting for it to boot up. All right, let's check host 1. Okay, ping 10.1.212. Weird. It sometimes it doesn't. You know, the default route doesn't stay. Pretty sure I did a right memory. But the default route stayed here. That's interesting. Okay, so that stayed. All right, so it's 431. After 431, you can set the MAC address manually. Before that, it sees the command but doesn't actually do anything about it. That's good to know. All right, so the configs. So this hashes out to admin. I've got, yep, I got all that there, all that there. Do I have all this here? Here. All right, so that works there. And that works there. Okay. So in the container lab configs, there's a way to specify a startup config file. Don't need that. There we go. That's what I want. Clo medium. So I want that. And where do I put it? Configs. Focus one on config. Let's copy. Where was that at? Okay, configs. So that way it loads these up, and the people don't have to actually run the thing in there. All right, so let's see if this works. Destroy. Container lab destroy. I can really tell I'm getting tired. Okay, so destroy, then deploy, reconfigure. So that should remove all the configs off of them, and then it should load. So the leaf one, all the leaves and spines should have no config on them except the basic default one, and then I should load up the specific ones for host 1, host 2, and R1. Because AVD is not going to configure them. AVD only configures the leaves and spines. The external router and the host, they're going to be configured by the static config, which is normally how it is. Wait. All right, so let's go to host 1. Cool, had the config in there. Let's go to leaf 1. Should have no config if I'm assuming I understand this correctly. What the heck? Oh geez, it gave everything the same config. How did that happen? What in the... How did they get their... How did those configs... I'm fading, so I think this might be the last couple tries. Let's see why. To leave 2. This is the startup config that it uses. Oh. I threw that in there. Why the heck? Oh, did I put them in the wrong place? Maybe that's why. Nope. Yeah, it's stuffing them in there for some reason. I'm not sure why. All right, I think that's been enough for tonight. Made some progress. Still have some stuff to do, but I'll continue that tomorrow.